You know,
You know what? What? Tell me. Go
oh, I
ahead.
was going to say at the event in Austria, it was the first time that I went on stage without anxiety. I just was ready, and then we went up, and I was like, "Huh, I'm out here, and I'm not freaking out. This is
I
pretty cool."
see. Oh, I thought you had a friend named Anxiety that you dragged along with you to all these events. He's
Yes, he's my emotional support
emotional
anxiety.
support. Yes. So no anxiety at all, no stage fright.
Yeah, it was amazing. I couldn't believe it.
Wow. Well, good for you. And you've been like, being on stage a lot your whole life. So congratulations.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
All right.
I just hadn't been for 15, 20 years, and so that gap allows the stage fright to come back.
I see. Oh, I get it. Okay. Well, let me ask you another question then. Are you anxious about what I'm going to ask you next?
For those tuning in at home, Randy has not shared with me today's topic. And no, I'm not worried.
You're not worried. Okay, well, all right. Let's jump on it. This is something that's been bugging me for a while, and I think you're probably the best person to ask. I asked Grok this morning. Grok
Mm,
gave me a non-answer.
mm.
So I went over to Wikipedia. Wikipedia gave me the best answer. So let's talk about the sizes of the Tesla factories
Oh,
and the
sure.
unusual amounts of claimed productive capacity of these factories seems weird to me. All right, so let's kind of run down according to Wikipedia.
Hmm.
Fremont and Nevada both have about 5,500,000 square feet of space.
Hmm.
Nobody wants to talk about the cubic feet. Grok said that Tesla fanboys are trying to figure out how many cubic feet, but it seems to be an elusive number. So, but those two, Fremont and Nevada, are both about 5,500,000 square feet. Grok also said that uh, Tesla Nevada was the largest of the factories, but that's not true anymore. So Grok got it completely wrong. All right, so those are 5,500,000 each, and we know, of course, that Fremont was not built from the ground up. It was taken over from had been a Toyota and a General Motors plant, I think, previously.
Yeah, Numi was a joint venture between GM and Toyota, where Toyota said, "Look, we're going to show you how to build the Japanese way." And it was
Right.
a very productive plant. It was 5.5 million when they took it over. That figure does not account for any of the new sprung structures or additional facilities that have been built since then. I'd guess it's more like six, six and a half.
All right. And the current capacity, people generally speaking think is between 600 and 700,000.
That is my belief as well. When I did the Fremont factory tour, the number they gave me was quite a bit higher. They said, "Well, we can do 3,000 a day or 2,500 a day." And I was like, "That's almost a million. You can't do that here. That's not, there's no way you're running under half capacity.
Right.
There's no way." Now, maybe he meant as a burst rate for one day.
I
That
see.
I would believe. I would
I,
believe you could burst to 3,000
I
or
see.
2,500 to 3,000. I don't think you could sustain it. That's too
Okay.
much.
So six to 700,000 and in about 550, 600,000 square feet. And of course, they do other things there. They have labs and they have maybe even more of the administrivia going on there than they do in some other places. But in general, that's the number. That's what we got. Okay. We have the, what do you call it? Nevada plant, which doesn't
Right?
make any cars. They
Right?
basically make batteries, they make power walls, and they make motors. Is that your
Correct.
understanding?
Correct. And just to clarify, you'd said it right the first time, but in your summary there, you said 550 to 650,000 when you meant 5.5 million to 6.5 million.
Exactly, exactly.
But yes, Nevada makes exclusively batteries, packs, and motors, and I'm pretty sure they're still making the power walls at that location. I used to have a source at Nevada, and yeah, no longer do. But that is my understanding. We could mention that they do build the semi next door on the pilot line,
Right.
which is just anyone who watched the event where they did the big delivery event can see it's just the building just outside the main facility.
Right. Okay. So now we go over to, why don't we go over to Shanghai? Shanghai's facility is only about 4,500,000 square feet, according to
Nope.
Wikipedia. No,
Wikipedia is mistaken. That
I
may
see.
be the square footage of the original building, but we got a video about a year ago where it was a big, beautiful promotional video, and it was released only on the Tesla China YouTube and not in English. So I painstakingly subtitled it into English, and then about 3 days later, they just released it with English subtitles. And I was
Okay.
like, oh, son of a.
Yeah.
So it is, at the time, it was more like 9 million square feet,
Oh, wow.
and they have not meaningfully added to that since. So it's still about 9 million square feet,
And that
according
is,
to Tesla themselves. And that jives with my math. Remember, the first part of the factory was almost entirely one floor.
uh-huh.
And the new part of the factory where the Model Y is built is more like Texas, where it's 2, 3 floors throughout and makes far better use of cubic space, which is why their Model Y production, despite having roughly the same footprint, is vastly higher.
Okay. All right. So 9 million roughly 9 million square feet. And some of that has a large cubic footage as well, because it's got more floors. All right. And they make roughly I don't know that I don't think they've ever made 1 million cars in a year, but it appears they have the capacity to make at least 1 million, maybe 1,000,001. Would that be fair?
That is absolutely my understanding.
Okay, and probably unless they get some real efficiencies like unboxing or some of these things, unlikely to go further than that unless they add some more space.
That is correct. I would say from there, you can expect incremental growth, nothing significant.
All right, now let's go to Berlin. Berlin, according to Wikipedia, is about 2,500,000 square feet. That's what they're showing.
I'd say that's a bit low. I would say 3.5 to 4 million is probably more accurate. They do use vertical space better than Fremont, better than, but not as well as Texas, not as well as phase 2 of Shanghai. It is mostly a one floor setup,
Oh,
but they've got cubic space they can still utilize because the ceilings are very tall, and it would not be too difficult for them to use that. And that probably also doesn't include the ancillary buildings like the Motor Works building next door. Um, so I would say, yeah, 4.5 million would be a much more realistic guess. I've seen estimates as high as 6 million,
wow.
but I don't think that's credible.
Okay, all right. And they, at that facility right now, appear to be at about 250,000 capacity in terms of maybe 2 shifts or whatever. Based on the square footage of Shanghai and of Berlin, one might expect that they certainly could have maybe on the order of 600,000, 500, 600,000
Yep.
there.
I would say 500 to 600 is quite reasonable. They would need to add shifts. They might need to add additional equipment. And that's the big thing. When we look at a lot of other companies, Lucid comes to mind. I've seen Lucid investors really clinging to the idea that gravity, the new gravity model, is going to save the company. And because they've got this huge facility they're going to use. And I say, right, but we've watched the drone footage and we haven't seen them loading equipment in hardly at all. Some equipment has gone in, but if you look at Berlin, if you look at Texas, you'll see that equipment has been loaded in every day for years.
Years.
And that's what you need in order to produce substantial volume. The space alone isn't going to make it.
Yeah, I think you've got that right.
Mhm.
I'm not sure you've ever said anything else correct, but that one I'm pretty sure is true. All right, let's see. Okay, so and then of course then Berlin has I apparently about 90% on the way to getting a final approval to go ahead and start building the next phase.
So let's finish out the first part of it, which is they
Okay,
do have the Motorworks building where they make the drivetrain stuff. They do have a 4680 building, which is also quite substantial. They have not yet begun producing 4680s. I assume that's because they want to get it all the way dialed in before they put in a whole line there that's also suboptimal and has to be torn out and rebuilt.
right.
So that will help things out substantially eventually. We don't know when. And then to your point, The expansion. They have all the preliminary work done to expand first into the empty area next to the factory, and then later into the empty area to the north of the factory, closer to the, I guess you'd say, over towards the train tracks up there.
Mhm.
That includes a new train station. That includes a new factory, presumably for a compact. But I think it's reasonable to suspect there are hesitations on building the compact in light of what we may learn on August 8th.
Okay, all right, yes, are certainly starting to put any equipment in any buildings.
Right.
All
Right.
right, so then we come back around, so maybe when that's all built out, I think everybody's always figured Berlin would be good for at least 1 million units, maybe more, but that's kind of the directionality.
Yes.
All right. That leaves us with Austin. So according to Wikipedia again, Austin is 10 million square feet. I don't know if that counts that new addition that they put on the south end or not, but 10 million is their number.
I would say it definitely does. My numbers showed 9 million when before the expansion began. Adding 1 million square feet in there might be a little generous, but if you include the dye shop and the cathode building, you're easily at 10 million.
Okay.
So I would say finally got one right.
Okay. And then 10 million square feet. And all of that is multiple floors, depending on how you break it out. I've heard numbers that it could be even as many as 4 separate floors, depending on, again, whether you want tall, very tall sections or whether you want more like office levels.
That is absolutely right. So the square footage I'm counting, because I tracked it all the way through, I watched them put I watched them put the floors in before the walls went in,
Right.
and some new floors and mezzanines were added after the walls went up in various places. But that those figures include the higher floors. There are a lot of administrative areas. There are a lot of break rooms. There are a lot of things that are not production related, but it's the company. They need to have all the things right there so that when there's a problem on the line and we need to grab an engineer, I can see him from here. And I saw that also in Fremont, where there was a little mezzanine right next to the line, and that's where the engineers work. So when there's a problem, everyone's not just in the same building, not just in the same time zone, but within just, I'd say within earshot, except the factories get a little loud at
Oh, yeah.
times.
So
So yeah, they're all right there.
so that we make sure that we're making these comparisons appropriately. When you talk about 10 million square feet or 5,500,000 square feet or whatever, you're talking about usable floor space. All right.
Correct.
As opposed to footprint.
Correct.
Okay. So the footprint is less than 10 million, but the
Yes.
usable floor space is 10 million. Okay. All right. And all right. So, but that facility right now is not well, maybe counting Cybertrucks is shooting for maybe 500,000 units of throughput annualized by the end of this year. But if we take a look at, say, Shanghai, or even, well, anyway, we would think that that facility would be good for at least 1 million, but maybe 1.5 million. Or what do you think? What do you think?
I think 1 million is a good target. I think the real problem is that there are 4 factories that make Model Y, and all of them are extremely productive. And despite being the best-selling car in the world, you do run out of market at some point. What I'd love to see them do is convert one of the Model Y lines in Austin to maybe a Model 3 line or something else so that they can run at full speed. Uh, there is no reason they couldn't make 1 million a year. If Shanghai has a capacity of 1 million, and I don't think Tesla says they do, but you and I know they do because we've
Mhm,
seen the numbers,
mhm.
there's no reason Austin couldn't as well, because the Austin makes 2 things. It makes the Model Y, which is the car that they are very, very good at making, and it makes the Cybertruck, which, though still ramping, has a whole lot of headroom in terms of efficiency for manufacturing, and it was designed from the ground up to be easy to manufacture. I know that Elon had said, "Oh, the capacity for Cybertruck is 250,000." And I think you and I agree that number is a little low. It's got to be easily double that. So,
You're talking about the TAM or the likely eventual sales.
I mean, the
Oh,
capacity of the
capacity
line.
in Austin. Okay, all right.
Yeah. And if
So,
the truck, and you've seen it with every model they make, the price starts really high and then it gets more reasonable and then it gets more reasonable still. On Saturday, I was out at an event with the Tesla Owners Club of Washington where the president of the club, Teresa, brought her own truck out and put it on display at the University Village sidewalk sale and would let people hop in. You want to hop in? Hop in. You want to check it out? Check it out. One guy even said, could you imagine if this was somebody's car? And Teresa goes, "It is. It's my car. You're welcome." Oh, wow. Wow. Thank you. And it was exciting. The biggest question everyone wants to know, what does it cost? So, well, this is the dual motor. It's 100 grand. And they said, whoa, that's a lot of people. That's a lot of money. It is, but you're paying for early access. You can say it's the features and the
sure.
bells and whistles that they're going to deliver at some point, but not today. But the reality is it's early access.
Yeah.
Let the people willing to pay 100 pay 100. And once we get all the way through the list, the price will drop.
And
And
I'll
I believe
finally be
when
able to buy one.
and I believe when Foundation Series ends, they will drop the price to 79,990 as expected at the delivery event, and then it qualifies for the tax incentive for the $7,500 federal credit. And your state may have additional credits. It may not. For a lot of states, it would be over the state limit. But even then, you go from 100 down to 72.5.
Right.
That expands your addressable market
Buy a lot.
vastly, vastly. And I think it would remain at 79,990 for another year or two, three, who knows?
Mhm, mhm.
And by then, they will definitely have the efficiencies in place to continue cutting the costs. When we saw the announcement of the Model 3, it's going to be 35 grand.
Right, right.
It'll never get to that price. It'll never get, and it comes out and it's 50, 55, whatever. And the price just kept coming down until right before the refresh, we saw inventory models, not even inflation adjusted, but actual sticker price inventory, go in and pick it up tomorrow for like 35.1. And that's a heck of a deal. So I'm confident that they'll be able to continue lowering the price, continue increasing the addressable market. All the while, the truck will keep getting better. The range will slightly improve, I hope, but no reason it shouldn't. And the costs for things like the battery, which are outrageously expensive as a percentage of the vehicle, will continue to fall. And the and the and these are going to be everywhere.
Right. Okay, so let's go back to Austin again in terms of productive capacity. So we're probably going to see, in order, if the US expands along anything close to the S curve that we're expecting it to, we will need the 250,000 Model Ys out of Austin. But we might need another 250,000 Model 3s out of Austin also, or something like that, 400, 200, whatever, in addition to everything that's being made in Fremont. And then we've got maybe 250 to 500,000 of the Cybertrucks. Both you and I agree it's probably going to be 500,000. And then we've got the Model 2.5 and or the Model 3, coming along, model, whatever it's going to be called, the model, not Model 3 certainly, but the model, the new
Two and a half.
the two and a half.
Sure.
And that's going to be made there. So somewhere it looks like we're going to be looking at least 1 million something in 2025 in that existing footprint, because they haven't broken any ground. So,
Right.
so
So
maybe,
I am,
yeah.
I am very hesitant to make volume predictions because it feels like we've been building stables and we're about to switch from carriages to cars. And if what we see on August 8th is going to represent a fundamental shift in what cars are, does it make sense to even count the units if the way a unit is used is different?
Right,
If one car gets you 3 cars worth of utility,
right.
does are we measuring the right thing? Are we counting the right numbers? And it feels like we could be facing a disruptive shift within months that would tell us that we've got the whole thing wrong.
Yes.
In terms of just looking at what we know today,
Mhm.
between the legacy vehicles that Tesla makes, the 3YSX, the new vehicle, the Cybertruck, and the next, and under the legacy umbrella, I'd put the smaller 3 or Y compact that has been teased.
Right.
But then you add in the actual robotaxi or real compact,
Mhm.
the fundamental new one, the unboxed one. The sky's the limit. Sky's the limit. They could do million, 2 million out of that facility if the demand is there and the designs work.
I see.
Why
And if
not?
so they would have to basically then take out some of the Model Y capacity in order to make space for this new unboxed, if you were going to get
Oh,
bigger numbers.
no. So that extension at the south end, we
Oh,
believe, is for the unboxed,
and
where
you
they
think
would put in.
you think it would be that much more throughput per square per cubic foot?
No, no. I think that the Model Y line, the space they have dedicated for Model Y
Right.
today
Right.
could easily exceed 500,000
Yeah.
if it were running 4 shifts full
Right.
speed.
Okay.
It's just that there's not enough
Right.
market for the
Right.
Model Y. But if that line is Y and 3, it could go
Right.
potentially faster. If it's Y and the 2.5s, the compact versions of the 3 or Y, that would spur demand. They could go back to full speed. So right there, I'm thinking more than 500,000 on that alone, 500,000 on the Cybertruck, maybe more because there's more space. There's if the demand is there, and then the unboxed. And we don't know how efficient that'll be, but 1,000,000 square feet using unboxed could move quick.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay. Interesting. So I did an analysis yesterday morning, Sunday morning, where I did my regular, what's going to happen in 2024, what's going to happen in 2025, 2026. And I said, unless they break some more ground and put up some more walls, we're kind of maxed out at around 3.2 to 3.5 million, giving existing facilities. And you're saying the way to possibly go beyond that would be if the new unboxed in the south end of Austin really had some great ability to use that 1,000,000 square feet.
So I'm going to do some math in my head here real quick.
Yes.
Well, so million in Shanghai, Berlin could do 1,000,000. Texas could already do 1,000,000. 3.5 is, yeah. So I guess you're right. 3.5, 4 would be without expansion, kind of the ceiling.
Pushing it.
Yeah, it would be, and it would be running ragged.
Right. Okay. So we have the planned expansion for Berlin, which would give us another 500,000. But other than that, there's no, there's a lot of land that Tesla owns in Mexico, but there's no activity down there. And the mayor of that city or whatever he is said the other day, yeah, they're still coming. They're still coming. We just don't know what century. He didn't say it exactly that way, but he says we
Yeah,
don't know when.
yeah. I'd said that they're inching forward, and someone in the comments actually helpfully corrected me and said they're centimetering forward because,
Yes.
yeah,
Yes. Okay.
because that's what they do.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
outside of the U.S.
All right. Okay. Well, then I guess I think my numbers are good then. I'm looking forward to what they're going to do next. I don't know whether that'll be more expansion somewhere in, whether it's India, whether it's more in Austin, whether it is something that we don't know that's on the table yet. Maybe something completely secret that they haven't exposed yet. All right. Yeah. Well, I think that's all I got for right now.
Works for me.
Let's do something different next time.
Sounds good.
All right. Thank you so much, Brian, and all of you out there. It's been great talking to you.